The Slovakia Prime Minister Robert Fico is in stable but serious condition after shooting, doctors say. BBC News.
Hello and a very warm welcome to the programme. I'm Sally Bundock. We begin in Slovakia, where Prime Minister Robert Fico remains in hospital after hours of surgery to save his life following an apparent assassination attempt. The Deputy Prime Minister Thomas Taraba told the BBC that the operation had gone well and he expected Mr. Fico to survive. The Prime Minister was shot several times as he was leaving a government meeting. Well, let's go live to Bratislava now and speak to our correspondent there, Bethany Bell. Bethany, what more can you tell us this morning?
Well, we're waiting for further official updates on Robert Fico's health, but we did hear, as you said, from the Deputy Prime Minister saying that he was no longer in danger of his life after having had this emergency operation that went on for several hours, we understand. The Deputy Prime Minister said Mr. Fico had been shot at very close range in the stomach and, what he said in his words, in the joint. So we wait, and very much this whole country is waiting with tenterhooks to see just the situation of Mr. Fico's health this morning.
And Bethany, just remind us of the events that took place yesterday.
Well, Mr. Fico was attending a government meeting in the town of Handlova, a town in central Slovakia, and he came out to greet members of the public who had come to see him. And as he did so, there were shots heard. People described hearing several shots. Mr. Fico fell to the ground, and others then apprehended a man, a suspect. And here's more from Sarah Rainsford.
Robert Fico strode out to meet supporters, as he likes to do. But as he reached out to shake hands, a man in the crowd reached for a gun. 5 shots rang out, and the Slovak Prime Minister tumbled to the ground. Too late, his security guards leapt on the gunman. The Prime Minister was first dragged and then rushed to emergency care. Too badly hurt to get back to Bratislava, he was airlifted to a nearby hospital. We were told he'd been shot in the stomach and arm, and his condition was critical.
I heard 3.
Kai is here. Hello. My baby's here. Hello, Kai. That's right. Sorry to the 8 Slovakian chatters who wanted me to.
It was quick, one by one, like if you throw firecrackers on the ground. I saw a scratch on the Prime Minister's head, and then he fell next to the barrier. It's a nightmare.
Robert Fico has plenty of opponents. Slovakia is a small country that's deeply divided politically, but no one saw this coming, and all have lined up to condemn it.
I am shocked. We are all shocked by the terrible and vicious attack on Prime Minister Robert Fico. A physical attack on the Prime Minister is, first of all, an attack on a person, but it is also an attack on democracy. Hateful rhetoric, which we can see in society, leads to hateful actions. Please stop it.
The suspected gunman was captured at the scene. We think he's in his 70s, but we don't know yet what drove him. In a video that's doing the rounds, he says he didn't like government policy, but it's just a few seconds out of context. Moments before the shooting, Robert Fico was at this press conference. He made a political comeback last year, elected on a pro-Russian platform. No more arms to Ukraine, a push for peace talks, and a veto on Ukraine joining NATO. He's since made moves against the public media that worry the opposition here and the EU. His team are calling the shooting a political attack, blaming the opposition and press for portraying him as a monster. But the Prime Minister himself is confrontational, his language inflammatory.
That's
his team
crazy.
say he's now off
my
the
man, bro, my man got shot. Okay, if he wasn't like, I don't know what his actual like full-blown perspective is, but it seems like he's like kind of pro-Russia. Okay, But it's wild because, like, under no circumstances would the media ever fucking talk about an assassination attempt on a fucking leader like this, with the idea that, like, he was kind of deserving it, if it wasn't, like, being pro Vladimir Putin. That's crazy. Like, I'm sure he sucks ass, okay? I am not discounting that at all. That's insane, brother. I've never seen mainstream media be like, well, he was kind of deserving it because of how inflammatory he is. He does. He's really conservative. Yeah, I'm not even remotely surprised. He's fucking, if he's pro Vladimir Putin in any capacity, of course he's fucking, who's Robert Fico, the Slovakian Prime Minister? Much of the discussion Mr. Fico's leadership is focused on is ties to President Vladimir Putin of Russia and Prime Minister Viktor Orban of Hungary. You want this? You want this? Here you go, baby. I gave her venison leg this time. Most people went, he deserved it after Shinzo Abe got shot too. Pretty funny. No, most people said that. The mainstream media did not. I am all I'm gonna say is I'm not sitting here being like, wow, it's really can't believe a leader got shot by an angry citizen. Okay. As the contradictions worsen globally, many of these cases will occur. It's C, not K in FISO. Oh, it's not FICO, it's FISO. He's a former commie and reformed Islamophobic social democrat. It is read as FITSO, not FICO. He was a communist most of his life. Time to take the right wing of his country's take. Okay, excuse me. It's really easy to celebrate as an American who knows nothing about the country and why it's pro-Russian. Okay, guys. Please calm down. Okay. I need you to understand something. Okay. Number one, I'm mostly memeing. Okay. Number two, it's giving Z a little bit. Okay. Like there's a difference. Fuck Putin. Okay. Well, there's a difference between my assessment and my criticisms of American imperialism versus me openly championing any politician that aligns with Vladimir Putin. Okay? Like Viktor Orban, as a matter of fact. Not a big fan of him either. Okay? Mr. Fico, who had been a Communist Party member while it was in power, founded the Smer Party in the late 1990s and began the first of his 3 terms as prime minister in 2006, serving for 4 years before going into opposition after his coalition lost an election. Slovakia is a landlocked country of around 5 million people. The Smer Party, which started out on the political left but has increasingly embraced right-wing views on immigration and the cultural issues, has governed as a part of a coalition. I will openly state one thing before we continue with this conversation. I don't know enough about Slovakian politics at all. That much probably is very clear to many of you. Okay? I don't. I don't necessarily care, nor do I know a lot about this 5 million landlocked country and the internal conflict. Okay? I do know, broadly how Eastern Bloc countries post Soviet dissolution, how they operate. But El political commentator. I would be an El political commentator if I personally told you, if I personally acted like I know and then assumed a position and then just like ran on with it and then read Wikipedia pages full of information that corresponds to my narrative so I can develop talking points and start owning interlocutors in the marketplace of ideas. Maybe even like, I don't know, trying to take on one of the most esteemed Slovakian chroniclers of history, and then getting subsequently fucking destroyed in the marketplace of ideas by a guy who doesn't even remember what my fucking last name is in that entire process. But I'm not doing that because I'm not being a fraudulent bitch. I'm telling you, I don't know. I don't know enough. Literally linked your previous takes on Russia. You do move goalposts and change your stance. This isn't the first time or the last time. You know it all, and we do. I literally linked your previous takes on Russia. You do move goalposts. What are you saying? My previous takes on Russia. This you? What is this? I'm not clicking on this fucking link. I don't know what the fuck that is. Is the sample from the Sixth Sense movie? I think bro just owned you. Probably. I don't know what he thinks I'm going to, like what thinks has changed. Top of the hour, Omega Law? Bro, what? We already ran the fucking top of the hour ad break. What are you talking about? I got owned already. You're 11 minutes late. Dummy. Anyway, let's continue. Much of the internal discussion of Mr. Fico's leadership in recent years is focused on his ties to Vladimir Putin of Russia and to Prime Minister Viktor Orban of Hungary, Slovakia's southern neighbor. Mr. Fico returned to power in 2012, but is registered as Prime Minister in July 2018 following mass demonstrations over the murder of a journalist, Jan Kuciak, and his fiancée, Martina Kusnirova, who had been uncovering government corruption. The protests, which rocked the country, were the largest seen since the Velvet Revolution. Demonstrators demanded the resignation of the government and new elections. Slovakia ranks high in independent assessments of press freedom, but the protesters had also sought deeper changes in the country Mr. Fico had overseen. He returned to power in an election last fall, forming a coalition government after securing around 23% of the vote, having campaigned against sanctions that were imposed on Russia after its full-scale invasion of Ukraine began in February 2022. Not one round of the country's ammunition should be sent to Ukraine, he had told voters. That stance in a country where pro-Russian sentiment had historically been significant worried EU leaders in Brussels, who said that they feared that Slovakia could form a pro-Russian alliance with Mr. Orban and potentially Italy's leader, Giorgia Meloni. This is one of the most laughable aspects of this conversation, because Giorgia Meloni and her existence, like modern fascist movements in Italy, is a direct consequence of NATO. So Giorgia Meloni's like supposed pro-Russia sentiment was laughable to anyone who understands the motherfucking history of fascism in Italy. There would be no Giorgia Meloni because her ancestors would have been fucking culled if it wasn't for NATO. Okay? That ideology would have been wiped out completely if it wasn't for NATO involvement in Italy. Okay? So the idea that like she would actually champion the pro-Russia movement in Italy and genuinely create a pro-Russian bloc with Italy is ridiculous. Okay? She knows where her bread is buttered. Okay? Not every fucking fascist is going to automatically align with Russia. Okay? There are plenty of Western adjacent fascists who don't. That would impede support for Ukraine and the European Union. At the time, it was also seen as a sign of apparent erosion of the pro-Ukrainian bloc that Europe had formed after the invasion. Slovakia's military contributions to Ukraine were negligible compared. I mean, dude, it's Slovakia. You're spewing bullshit. She's definitely more pro-Russia and is a big Eurosceptic. I'm willing to concede on this point if you can give me firm statements beyond, actually not even statements, firm actions that she has taken beyond sentiments she expressed while running for her position. Okay? The reason why I say that is because there is no world in which an actual Italian fascist, a real Italian fascist, would ever genuinely fucking take an anti-NATO stance, because their entire position of power is predicated upon being a NATO member. It would be like Turkey being anti-NATO. It would be laughable. Recep Tayyip Erdogan can take strict stances against other NATO nations, even fucking invade or directly fight against other NATO nations. But ultimately, Turkey is a NATO country. We have American nukes in our American bases, like in Incirlik, okay? That's crazy. It's like saying Britain is pro-Putin because of Brexit, kind of.